Long before the stories of good versus evil, the galaxy began to take shape. Cosmic dust weaved its way around the galactic center, creating billions of stars and the systems around them. Over time, this vast expanse of space would start to look familiar to the one we know. To try and keep track of all the events that would take place within the galaxy, much later on in the Star Wars timeline, a universal after the Battle of Yavin, before Battle of Yavin dating system would be developed. This is a direct reference to the Battle of Yavin seen in Star Wars Episode 4. In Legends, the New Republic Historical Council debated between the events at Yavin and Endor before choosing the former as the most significant galactic event for its history. For us learning about the lore, one could argue it represents where the galaxy far, far away started, A New Hope. Of all the systems within the galaxy, one stands out as the oldest recorded. 7,500,000,000 BBY, hydrogen, helium, and interplanetary dust coalesced and formed the Yavin system. Located within the latter known Gordian Reach sector in the Outer Rim territories is a bright red gas giant, Yavin Prime. Orbiting Yavin Prime is 26 moons, but only 3 of them, Yavin 4, 8, and 13, would become habitable. For now, these moons, its gas giant, and the Yavin system itself would continue to take shape, like the other billions across the galaxy. Fast forward 2.5 billion years, and the oldest life in the galaxy would begin to emerge. On the world of Goroth Prime, located within the Mid-Rim, the rocky, volcanic wasteland would be the galaxy's first life, according to the timeline. Fast forward another few billion years, and in 10 million BBY, the planet of Essels within the Core Worlds region was under constant volcanic activity. Scenes like this would continue to happen across the galaxy for a few million more years, but the timeline is beginning to narrow, and if nothing else, paints a picture of the galaxy finally emerging out of its infancy. Species would begin to rise and fall across the galaxy. Within the Outer Rim territories, the planet of Vinsoth was struck by an asteroid. The impact devastated nearly all life on the planet, but over time, 2 species would emerge. As the world of Vinsoth settled and became a temperate world with grasslands, prairies, Arctic ice, and deserts, the Chevin would emerge. The Chevin are a race of bipedal, elongated-mouthed, thick-skinned, and hoof-footed sentients that started out as hunter-gatherers. Alongside the Chevin are the Chev, a humanoid species also native to Vinsoth. The Chev also started out successfully as hunter-gatherers and began laying the groundwork for a successful civilization. However, the Chevin would go on to conquer the Chev and extend their nomadic civilization across the planet. The society would go on to form government villages where Chevin dictators rule over the Chevin's 24 nations. The Chevin are a race of opportunistic realists seeking power and wealth by any means necessary. This mindset would see the Chev continuously oppressed and enslaved for millennia until the far-off age of the New Republic. In another part of the galaxy on the mid-rim world of Kashyyyk, the Wookiee species began to evolve in 2 million BBY. Kashyyyk is a planet with no axial tilt and a perfectly circular orbit. This created a single continuous season, coupled with a large tropical ocean, laid the foundation for its lush swaths of flora. Most of the planet can be compared to a giant swamp full of life, wet soil and large amounts of water. Wroshyr trees dominated the landscape, the trees themselves reaching kilometers in height and living up to 50,000 years old. Because of the massive flora, colossal Wroshyr trees, and the way wildlife began to evolve on the planet became a layered death trap. The higher up the Wroshyr trees you are, the safer it is to live, as the trees themselves can provide food, water, and shelter. But the lower you descend, the more dangerous the wildlife becomes deep in the dark under the shade of so many massive trees. In this environment, the Wookiee species began to evolve. Wookiees are a race of large, hairy humanoids that found its safety high up in the Wroshyr trees. As a race of tree climbers, they were able to avoid their natural predators and built settlements, then later entire cities within the trees themselves. As time progressed, the Wookiees would evolve into a species we know in the setting currently, a race of calm, mild-mannered beings. But should a Wookiee ever need to turn to combat, they erupt into a berserker rage, making them feared opponents not just on their homeworld, but eventually across the galaxy. As the galaxy continued on, a few more species would not make the cut. Evidence of a mysterious aquatic species on the tropical world of Galactic is one such example. In contrast to Galactic, the world of Goroth Prime I mentioned before saw semi-intelligent life develop. But on another world, Randorn 2, an apex predator mollusk species known as the Ibliton, went extinct. At around 600,000 BBY, the galactic stage was set. The race to the stars would begin, and many more species will rise and fall as the story continues. This has been Tarc of Crimson Command Gaming, bringing you the second installment in a continuing series of lore videos. Thank you for watching, and I hope you tune in for the next video.